We've been talking about what happened in New York and what could have happened in New Jersey over this past weekend. As all of you know, I was in New York City for 9/11, so my antenna immediately goes up. But I know yours does too as well. And now they have somebody in custody, charged him, etc. You know that story we've been talking about, Ahmad Khan Rahmani, that he was shot on Monday morning by police officers. And luckily, he was sleeping in a bar door. And because his face was plastered all over the place, somebody called, in fact, the guy who owned the bar, and they were able to get him in New Jersey. And we know this is a pressure cooker situation again. They've got videotape, just absolutely crazy stuff. Robert Caltabiano joins us now, and he spent many, many years in law enforcement. In fact, the bulk of his career with the Secret Service, where he managed the terrorism task force often. And here we go. But Robert, thanks so much for joining us.
Wonderful to be here.
So from when you know this, there's more threats than people would even want to know. People would be scared to walk out the front door if they knew some of what you probably dealt with over the course of your career, right?
I don't know about scared, but I want to flip that and say that people would be proud about what they're doing out there, that maybe not everybody knows every minute. But if you did, you'd really take pride in what law enforcement is doing.
Yes, and I agree with that, knowing a lot of FBI guys, and I know some Secret Service people, too, as well, and Homeland Security, if you want to throw that into the mix. So what was your reaction when you heard about Rahmani and the situation with him? That, again, something to be proud of because there was swift action. His face was all over the place, and then, look, somebody saw and they were able to get him?
Well, obviously, like a lot of Americans, I think my first reaction was anger that, this is happening again. And then, looking and really rejoicing about our law enforcement system because it works. We have the best of the best out there. And so the first thing, as an individual, anger is saying, again, why is this happening, happening to us in the country of the free? But then on the other hand, changing it and then looking at the great people out there that are, have done miraculous things within the last 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah. So what is it that is going on? It's just a different world and we're seeing more lone wolf terrorists, or what's happening from your point of view?
I know everybody calls them lone wolves. I think a lot of times, if we look at it in a different perspective, copycats, we have the situation in Minneapolis. ISIS claims, responsibility there. They claim responsibility for everything. It is an information world, so people are out there, wanting to either make a name for themselves or with their disbeliefs and their hatred and doing things in a way that we didn't see 20 years ago. But we're getting better each and every day. I think really law enforcement, our military, in our country here since 9/11, and you were there, I was in the area the same also. We're getting better at dealing with this. The unfortunate thing is that, we really shouldn't have to deal with this.
Yes, we really shouldn't have to deal with this. From the point of view of, and this is a ridiculous comment, because how do you shut it down? It's more just about, as you mentioned, people would be proud if they knew what was happening on these task forces. When you worked on your task force, what did you look for? How were you trying to stop a terrorist in their tracks or a potential situation?
I think anybody in the intelligence community, they're only as good as the information that they're receiving, and that comes from, a lot of it, believe it or not, average everyday people. And so, when I would sit down in briefings with our people, what is going on? It's day-to-day things. If you see something and it kind of looks funny or it smells, and you don't do anything about it, I got to say why. Because if you really use your gut instinct, which we got to start using again, because we know what is right. We really instinctively know that. And unfortunately, I think that people move too fast sometimes to get on with their lives and don't stop and say, hey, wait a minute. What is that? The case in point, the lady the other day taking the picture of the pressure cooker, I believe it was on, 27th Street.
Yeah.
And, she put her life on the line, but she thought there was something wrong with this. And obviously, it was. But she took that picture and then notified the police about it. And then the homeless individuals that, they're lucky that they're alive that actually picked up the device, but then they did something they notified police again. And it's that information that really can help one another when we really need it.
Yeah, so just keep your eyes open, not be paranoid, not enjoy your life, but just look around and trust your gut when you see something. I completely agree with that. From your years in the Secret Service and, again, working in this global security operations too, because I'll call it that, I'll umbrella it that, do you think that there starting to be more cooperation? I heard from a buddy that there's more cooperation than what was reported back in 9/11 between agencies.
I think we see that across the board. And, to me, we're a country that continuously learns. And so, as you know, go back 15 years ago, a lot of people, we just didn't communicate. That was the culture back then. Everybody, basically stayed in their own line. Now we have, cross communications at times, but there was no really need for it. Everybody was an expert at what they did. And now there is that need. I think it was always there, but unfortunately it took a really bad situation, a horrible situation, for us to realize this. And so that's what I'm saying is that we're getting better every day. But I believe government, whether it's local, state, or federal, is only as good as we are, we the people. If we are sitting back and doing nothing, what do you think the expectation then should be on our government? And so we need to be able to, to feed ourselves and to take care of ourselves in a way of, hey, if you see something, don't just say something, but do something.
Oh, I like that. Do something. Absolutely. When you were with the Secret Service, what was the coolest thing you got to do?
I think, I tell people I was like a kid in a candy store in the fact that I love history. And, it is not easy running for president. We have two people that, it is not easy. And it's a lot of work. It's the hardest job in the world outside, I think, of being a parent. But being around these people, I just could not help but learn just the mannerisms maybe of who they are, or what sometimes they're thinking, or how they act. And, you take pride into the fact is that in the Secret Service, we protected the office of the presidency or the vice president or the former presidents or first ladies. And at the end of the day, they're people just like you and I. They get colds. They have headaches. They also laugh and cry at the same time. And we don't see that very often anymore. I think we view them very differently. But I want to tell everybody it was a fantastic life and something that a kid from upstate New York would have never dreamed of doing, or going places that he never dreamed of going. And to represent our country was a gift of a lifetime.
Yeah, and working on the campaign. If you were there on the campaign trail, was there a president that you stuck with, that you were part of their detail, or no?
Not to get into the nitty-gritty, but it depended. We do rotations, and on a campaign trail, I was out with quite a few of them. I worked with 7 presidents, and many people that ran for president. And it was, what the main thing is, I think we went out and saw the American people. We saw everybody and anybody, all walks of life throughout this country, and it just made me really be so proud of who we are. And it's because of the people behind it. We really do have our country is just wonderful. We're blessed. And we just need to get out to see that more often. And traveling around the country in the campaign trails allows you to see that and to feel it amongst our people.
Oh boy, I bet. So I guarantee that you've watched this movie several times. How accurate was In the Line of Fire? With Clint Eastwood?
Movies.
Yeah.
I love movies. Clint Eastwood is a hero of mine. I watch all his movies. There's bits and pieces behind it. Things change. I think, tactics change as we went across in time. That was done in the early 90s.
Yeah.
What they did back then, we wouldn't be probably doing today because the presidency's changed, because the world has changed. I think we learned when the attempt on President Reagan's life, back in 1981, the Secret Service had to readjust how it did business, and they're constantly doing it. And what happens today, if you and I speak in a year from now, probably things will change.
Yeah, absolutely. Robert Caltabiano, thank you so much for coming on, talking about this. We appreciate it.
Thank you.